Okay? The good guys won. All right? The age of Aquarius is going to be an age of enlightenment, high frequencies, love, compassion, bliss, ecstasy, joy, serenity. Okay? Community, justice, freedom, truth, love, beauty, all that stuff. That's what the age of Aquarius is about. We fucking won, you guys! Woo! Yeah! All right, and the old draconian, old Arconian, old Anunnaki system based off of the low frequencies, based off of death and decay and the fear and destruction, all that is leave it in the past, man. It's all in the past. Let it go. Let it go. All right. So with all that said, here's how these things differentiate on like an energetic scale. Remember how I said that essentially we're talking about beings of frequency more so than we're talking about being just as much as we're talking about beings of physicality. Okay? What I'm talking about here is this. Beings of high frequencies, of love frequencies, okay, are like this here. They embody the double torus field. They embody all the harmonics of the universe beautifully and perfectly. They create the whole that is greater than the sum of its parts, that continues to expand and expand and expand its consciousness to envelop larger and larger octaves of creation and thusly understand itself beyond further and further beyond the flesh. Okay, thusly becoming a hyperdimensional extraterrestrial intelligence. Okay, now the lower frequency beings, the ones that are on the infrared side, the archons, the evil Anunnaki, the evil alpha draconians, etc., these beings are beings that are not in harmony with the universe. And so what they have to do in order to like get to this state right here, this whole and full state, is they have to prey on beings that are of this high frequency state. Okay, and they suck their energy into their energetic field until their energetic field is like this and the other person's energetic field is like this. Okay, these are called energy vampires, narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths. Okay, these people are what you're looking at here. Okay, these are like the gurus. These people here are like the Jesus Christ, the ascended masters, the saints, the sages, the Buddhas, the bodhisattvas, the mystics. Okay, that's who's here. Okay, that's these people. And that's the reason why these beings always drive these beings away. Okay, all right, because these beings are such high frequency that these beings are like, I can't fuck with that. I'm out of here. Okay, I don't want anything to do with that universe. That thing will tear me apart. Okay. Now, with all that said, moving on. We have to understand that when we're talking about beings that are like hyperdimensional, we're not just talking about beings that understand this aspect to their own consciousness just around their physical bodies, okay? They understand all the different layers outside of the physical body to the point where they're able to go up into like the upper atmosphere, okay? You hear my niece crying. I hope that doesn't bother you. Or baby, she's getting her diaper changed. So what we're looking at here, you guys, these are what I call organic UFOs or UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, okay? This is where this whole idea of dragon beings came from. Okay, this is the dragon beings right here, okay? And this is actually, whether or not you know it, there is a person on Earth that is experiencing this. Okay, this is the whole idea where the dragon bloodlines come from, is beings that are so conscious beyond their physical form and flesh that they were able to embody this massive energetic being of harmonic resonance outside the flesh and in outer fucking space, y'all. And so this is where this whole idea of the blue avians comes from, this whole idea of the sphere being alliance and all that stuff. Is what we're talking about is beings of frequency from harmonic octaves so far beyond the third dimension that they're manifesting as orbs of light in our upper atmosphere. Okay? What we're talking about here is the harmonic resonance patterns of physical beings on the planet manifesting in the upper atmospheres of our planet. Okay? We're talking about their aura, right? The whole idea of the chakras and all that stuff going all the way up. We're talking about that process having a physical effect in reality and in the dimensions of time and space. And we perceive it as like a dragon being in the sky or a light orb or something like that. Whereas the person that's experiencing this is looking down on the planet Earth and going, whoa, holy shit, dude. That's the Earth. And I'm like, way the fuck up here. Whoa, how about that, eh? All right, now, with that said, yes, there are organic UFOs that are able to outmaneuver our fighter pilots, our fighters, things that travel at Mach 2 and stuff like that, because these things are traveling at the speed of sound. I mean, faster than the speed of sound, you guys. These things are traveling at the speed of thought. They're traveling at the speed of thought. And if thought is about the feedback loop of light and information and where you are in the harmonic timelines and all that stuff, then that is the speed of thought. Okay, here, there, gone there. There, all over the sky. Yep, guess what? And now they're gone. You're tracking them, now they're gone. Okay, that's why things are the way they are with this unidentified aerial phenomena stuff. Okay, because we're not just talking about physical craft, you guys. Yes, there are physical craft, but that is like less than 1% of it. Okay, the physical craft are a response to the non-physical craft, you guys. Okay, and I'll get to that in a minute. It's important to understand, though, that what we're looking at here is organic UFOs. What we're looking at here is the amplification of the auric field and the consciousness field, the consciousness awareness field of the divine being that is responsible for this resonance pattern. Okay? Hopefully all that makes sense. So, understanding the idea of standing waves, understanding the idea of a plane of consciousness, understanding the idea that the Earth is kind of like the center of the universe in a sense. Okay? Universe is the universe is this infinite sphere whose center is everywhere and circumference is nowhere. Okay? If you understand all that, you understand that essentially different beings from different star systems, different harmonic octaves are coming to this plane of consciousness to interact and interrelate with one another. That way the universe can grow and change and evolve as a hyperdimensional consciousness beyond the flesh. If we grok that idea, then we can really, really grasp the infinite potential of the human spirit, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Because it's so far beyond the physical that it boggles most people's minds. All right. Now, our ancient ancestors understood this, you guys. Our ancient ancestors understood this reality. Did you hear that synchronicity? Our ancient ancestors understood this reality. Okay. And that's why they created all of these different massive megalithic structures, whether it be pyramids, whether it be stone circles, whether it be deep underground harmonic resonance chambers in cities. Okay, all the iconography all over the globe, it's all the same for a reason. Because there was a global civilization that understood the feedback loop of light and information, understood the nature of the interconnected nature of consciousness and spirit. They understood the metamorphosis that was happening on a moment-by-moment basis by simply living and existing and observing reality. And they understood the idea of extraterrestrial races coming from the star systems to our planet. Okay, and in many cases, they interceded and interacted with these beings at these sacred sites on very specific days, at very specific times, and in many cases, the shamans were under the influence of psychedelic hallucinogenic plants. Get over it. It's the facts, ladies and gentlemen. All right, and it's because these plants literally plug your consciousness into a higher hyperdimensional perspective of reality that allows these higher dimensional octaves of energy to be perceived beyond the five senses. Okay? So our ancient ancestors understood all this stuff, you guys, and they created literally a global civilization, both above ground and underground, based off of this understanding of harmonics, resonance, frequency, vibration, and energy. Okay, and the idea of creating the most profound metamorphosis process while they were here on this planet, the most profound spiritual metamorphosis process while they were here on this planet that they possibly fucking could. Okay? That's what you got to do. That's what we're here for. That's what we're all doing here, whether you like it or not. So whatever it is you got issues with, I suggest you work them out. See, the ancients understood the flower of life. This is the flower of life sphere under the power of the guardian lion. Interesting. Guardian lion at the ancient imperial palace in the forbidden city of Beijing. This is flower of life in the Golden Temple in India and flower of life in the mosaic in Turkey. This is the tetrahedron in Armenian. This is Ethiopian. This is Roman, Mesopotamian, Hindu, Phoenician. You get the idea. It's because this is the very basic fundamental structure of reality. This is the amplituhedron. Okay, this is the tetrahedron. This is how reality is created, you guys. Okay, and the ancients understood that. And where did they say they got all this information from, you may wonder? I believe the term they used was star beings. Okay, so they got all this information from star beings. They got this star knowledge from star beings, from their ancient ancestors who claim to be from the stars. Okay, so what they did, because they understood all this, is on each and every one of these ley lines, that's what these are called, ley lines. Okay, these are electromagnetic points on the planet, and where these things coincide, we tend to get extraterrestrial phenomena. Okay, in many cases, this is the doorway of the gods, way down here, I think it's in Peru. Okay, this spot is right, like smack dab on the crossing of ley lines, you guys. So this is like a hyperdimensional doorway of the energy, that the feedback loop of light and information that is moving through Gaia is moving to and through in order to get back to source. Okay? So our ancient ancestors created pyramids on these places. They created ziggurats. Hey, they created ziggurats, okay? And notice the pyramids are in alignment with, wow, star systems. How about that, eh? And if we understand the energetic power that pyramids have and the way that they actually create a higher frequency octave, the longer they exist, all right, then if you put yourself inside of one of these chambers at a very specific time, when one of these star systems is pointing at that specific location, then you are literally embodying that frequency. You are getting in tune with the feedback loop of that star system and embodying it into your consciousness field. And thusly, you are embodying the highest possible consciousness available, the highest possible harmonics available in the entirety of the universe and multiverse. Okay? Okay? So that is how and why our ancient ancestors did things the way that they did. That's why they built all these, structures. That's why they have all these ley lines, and that's why they built them on all these ley lines. They had to find the ley lines, okay? And that's how they were able to communicate with extraterrestrials on a regular basis, okay? Because the shamans understood the way reality works, and they didn't mind being completely plastered on hallucinogens to get it. So, with all that said, how did they get in tune with this? Because it's more than just taking psychoactive plants. Trust me on that. Okay, and the way that they did it was by understanding the idea of the heart path. Okay, the idea that their heart was calling them to a very specific timeline. Okay, so this is where God-given dreams come from. This is where I have a dream that I know I was meant to fulfill comes from, you guys. Okay, it's because it's your heart path. Your heart knows the truth. Okay, and we have had a whole society of people that have been told to ignore their heart path, get a fucking job, get a degree, get a this, get a that, marginalize yourself, put yourself as a peg in this, deterministic machine that knows not of you and cares not for you. Okay, that's bullshit. All right, and that's the reason why we have a dystopia like we do. Okay, because of the mentality. Okay, what it is that we have a predominantly left brain thinking that's going on this planet. So we have a very imbalanced perspective, okay? The left hemisphere of the brain is the logic, portion, if I'm not mistaken. It's the rational, analytical, etc., etc. And we've been told to ignore the abstract. We've been told to ignore the right side, when the only way that you can get a real scope and real view of reality is by taking both eyes of Horus, or both hemispheres of the brain, and overlapping them to create a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. Okay? And so when we follow our heart path, when we go with our intuition, our logic and our intuition build together, okay? And then these two things end up working symbiotically with one another, okay? Now, we can stimulate the logical side of our brains while we're listening to the intuitive side. We can stimulate the logic side and the rational side with text, okay, with understanding what has come before us and our ancient history, the techniques, etc., etc. Okay, we can also get in tune with these energies via pyramids. Okay, we can get in tune with them via shamanic plants and shamanic ceremonies. Okay, we can also get in tune with them via things like tantric sex. Okay, and the sex process is actually very, very sacred, and it plugs you into the creation aspects of the universe. That's why it feels so good. We can also dance our way into these states of consciousness. We can meditate our way into these states of consciousness. As I said before, we can use psychoactive plants to get into these states of consciousness. We can sing. We can play music and drum to get into these states of consciousness. We can do things like yoga or things like Tai Chi to get into these states of consciousness. Ultimately, though, it's all about the kundalini being raised up the spine, or basically the harmonizing of all the chakras within one another to create a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. And in the process, the harmonics resonate to the next level octave above the body. And then we really get into the hyperdimensional aspects to our consciousness. Okay? Then we really get into what reality is all about. Okay? So, in conclusion here, we're really coming to the end here. I hope you're still with me. Okay? The 12D hyperdimensional feedback loop of energy is creating all these 11D harmonic frequencies of vibratory resonance. Okay? And each of these little planes here is a galaxy. Okay? And each of these galaxies are comprised of billions upon billions, more than there is grains of sand on the earth, amount of stars within the galaxy. Okay? And each of those stars has planets. And each of those planets is comprised of atoms, all of which are based off of harmonics. All of these are different harmonic octaves from the highest to the lowest frequencies in the cosmos, and then back again, over and over and over again. This process, going from cosmic to quantum, and from quantum to cosmic, this is happening all the time. Okay, and it is this process that extraterrestrials have understood, dissected, understand the physics of it, have gotten in tune with the harmonics of, and become symbiotic with. Okay. This is why they're so fucking advanced. This is why they're so far beyond us, because we haven't done much of this yet. Okay? We haven't come to terms with our unity to all things yet. Okay? But that's what the Age of Aquarius is all about. Yeah! All right? That's what these high frequency beings are here for. Okay? Is to help us to understand what's actually going on here, who we are, where we come from, why we're here, and what we're doing. Okay? So as we ascend, as we as individuals end up becoming this 12D hyperdimensional consciousness, as we go from the low 3D perspective all the way up to this 12D hyperdimensional state of awareness, okay, what we're doing is we're essentially embodying the cosmos. We're embodying the cosmic mind. We are essentially mastering all of the harmonic resonance patterns, or what are called the archetypes in the year. And the more we do this, the more we master these harmonic archetypes within the year. Each of these is like a challenge and a reward at the end of the beginning of the month. Okay? As long as we keep doing that and we keep evolving, our DNA also evolves, and we become grander and grander beings of consciousness and awareness, and we go up in scale. So eventually we harmonize with the frequency of the planet. And then when that frequency isn't high enough, we harmonize with the octave and the frequency of the sun. And when that isn't high enough, guess what we do? We go to the galaxy. That's not high enough. Guess what? We go up to the multiverse. And when that's just not enough, when we know that there's more, guess what we do? we go to that 12D perspective. Home. Home. Okay? And you can go home without having to die. It's called ego death, okay? And you can get there, like I said before, in numerous different ways, all right? Ego death is the key here, not actual physical death, okay? The idea is to dissolve the ego, the perspective of I am my body, basically, and change it to I am the universe. I am the multiverse. I am the divine. I am the Spirit of God incarnate. Okay? And eventually, when you get there, well, then you get up to these extremely high frequency planes of existence, you guys. You end up becoming a Shiva. You end up becoming a Brahma. Okay? You end up becoming a vortex of consciousness and frequency on such a high harmonic level that you end up becoming the source of your own creation. You end up becoming your own divine multiverse. Okay? Now, yes, there are beings of a low frequency. There are beings that are of this they're of like this level, except on a low frequency. Okay? There are beings, this is where the whole idea of Azathoth or the Cthulhu and stuff like that. Okay? H.P. Lovecraft understood some stuff. All right? He understood some stuff about the darker side of things. Okay? But that also means that he might have understood a little bit about the lighter side of things. Right? Now, what we see in like the Vedas, okay, whether it be the Mahabharata or it be the Bhagavad Gita or something like that, what we're seeing is the battling out of like these really, really low frequency beings and these really, really high frequency beings. Okay? What we're seeing is the quote unquote warfare of these massive fucking vortexes, these hyperdimensional beings of consciousness, okay? Battling, quote unquote, battling over Earth based on the timelines that are brought to this planet, okay? So, coming back full circle, okay? Getting in tune with these harmonic frequencies through the sacred sites, all right? Remember how I said that paranormal, ancestor spirits, life and death cycle, and feedback loop, I hope all this is kind of meshing together now, okay? Essentially what I'm saying is that whether or not you know it, you probably have some level of ET genetics in you, because your consciousness is not necessarily, quote unquote, from here, because technically we're all from source. We're all from higher dimensional dispensations of source, okay? And in some cases, lower dimensional dispensations from source, lower harmonic frequencies, okay? But most of those beings are being purged right now because this is the age of Aquarius. This is an age of high frequencies. Okay, love, peace, truth, harmony, bliss. Right? Good, right? So we go to these harmonic sites, we get in these massive pyramids, or even we just meditate on top of a mountain in front of the doorway of the gods. In knowledge, beauty, wonder, bliss, compassion, wisdom is dispensed to you. But you have to be ready for it. You have to know that the divine loves you and wants you to know the truth. And you have to not be afraid of that truth. So with that said, if you don't believe the idea that, this is something that's been going on this planet for thousands of years, there's something called out-of-place artifacts. Now, out-of-place artifacts are like some of the most mind-blowing things that you can imagine, okay? This here is a cell phone that has what looks like Sumerian cuneiform writing on it, okay? This is what looks like somebody using a laptop of some sort. Maybe it could be a mirror, but it also looks like a laptop. Okay, this looks like a Bluetooth device. This looks like a fucking rocket ship. Okay, this is a handprint, a fossilized fucking handprint. Human handprint, fossilized in mud. That's like from the millions and millions and millions of years ago, dinosaur days. Okay, then we got a freaking screw here in this rock. We got pieces of metal. We got looks like a washer or a bearing. okay, in stone. That's millions of years old. And then we got these hieroglyphics. That looks like a freaking helicopter. That looks like a submarine. This looks like a hovercraft. Okay? What we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen, is a global civilization that was so advanced, but it got destroyed. It got destroyed because it became too top-heavy with its own hubris. Kind of like a certain society that I'm thinking about. And so it was wiped clean. Okay? With that said, our ancient ancestors understood all this stuff. Okay? And we've had a global civilization on this planet more than once. Okay? And it's all been wiped clean because it got way too crazy. Okay? It got way too top heavy with its own hubris. Okay? It lost sight of the truth. Okay? Now, let's get into these skulls, these elongated skulls, because this is really important, especially when we start talking about aliens. Okay, you guys? These skulls were not elongated due to binding. Okay, these skulls do not have the same type of structure to their cranium that we do. The several different plates. I think we have 3 plates on our heads or something like that. Okay, these skulls do not. Okay, in many cases, these skulls have a very large plate here on the front of the head. Okay, and then there's a couple here in the back. Okay. Now, if you parallel these skulls, these quote-unquote elongated skulls, with other contemporary skulls of humanity at the time, they're drastically different, y'all. Drastically different. And this right here is what happens when a human binds their skull. Okay, it just deforms their head. Okay, it does not actually give them more brain mass the way that these ancient people had more brain mass. Okay. That's where this whole idea of the ancient pharaohs comes from, okay, and the ancient pharaonic lines, okay. It's because they were essentially people that understood the feedback loop of light and information, and they were families of shaman that had understood this stuff for literally millions of years, okay, millions of years. All right, and they did this stuff where they went to sacred sites, where they went into pyramids, they consumed these psychoactive plants, they got in touch with these extremely high frequencies, these extremely high octaves of reality, of high harmonic vibration, and their bodies ended up quote unquote mutating. They evolved their DNA. Their DNA evolved to house these higher and higher octaves of consciousness. Okay? Now, what's really interesting is that when it comes to the pharaohs in Egypt, the pharaonic lines ended up interbreeding so much because they wanted to preserve this knowledge. They didn't want to give up any of this knowledge that their DNA had housed in it, so that they interbred with each other, as opposed to taking somebody from, say, like quote unquote the earth people. Okay, and that's why their genetics just got so deformed after a while, because it's like, dude, you're making a copy of 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 a copy for thousands of years, man. It's not going to work out very well. And so these people ended up becoming quite inhuman in some cases, not all cases, but in many. Okay, and that's part of the reason why they were wiped from the planet. Okay. Because they were not in tune with the harmonics of the universe. Okay, they had grown too ego-bound. They weren't dissolving their egos. They were emboldening their egos. Okay? Now, if you don't believe this idea of this right here, to me, is evidence that there's extraterrestrials on this fucking planet, and there has been for millions of years. This right here is evidence to me that there has been a global civilization and probably extraterrestrials all over the planet for millions of years, okay? This stuff right here, these structures that we could not possibly fucking build today, to me, yeah, that's evidence that there was an ancient civilization here that was, you know, far more advanced, an alien civilization of some sort, from a higher intelligence, okay? Now, if you don't believe that, then look into Cydonia, okay? And if you don't believe in the idea of Cydonia and the idea that there's a city on Mars and that there's pyramids and that there's a face and, you know, all that stuff, if you don't believe that, I totally get it. Totally get it, dude. I didn't believe it at first either. believe me. But then I looked into the math of it. I looked into the aspects, to the sacred geometric aspects to these structures. And if you understand what exactly was trying to be done here, using harmonics, using energy, using frequency, using vibration, what happened here is that they essentially tried to weaponize the fucking planet. Okay? And it ended up backfiring on them. And whether or not you know it, there were actually, this is what really got me to believe in the idea of Cydonia and the idea of an ancient Martian civilization. The probes that we sent there have identified radioactive isotopes that are only created during human-made nuclear explosions, ladies and gentlemen. So that means that there are molecules, radioactive isotopes on Mars that are not present anywhere except for during artificial nuclear explosions. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. All right? There was water on Mars once. Any fucking second grader could know that. All they have to do is look at the damn poles. Okay? There's water, there's ice on Mars. Everybody, there's ice on Mars. Ice means water is on Mars too. How about that, eh? All right. So there was a very, very, very advanced ancient civilization that was on Mars, ladies and gentlemen, and it destroyed itself. Okay, because it was all about power. It was all about using the feedback loop to gratify the ego, not to obliterate the ego. And thusly, these planes of consciousness were fucking destroyed. Like they should have been. Because you don't do that. You don't try to bring things into the lower frequency realms. You bring things into the high frequency realms. That's what it's all about. Because if you try to bring things down, well, then you get brought down in the process. Because it's all fractal, right? You're the center of the universe, right? So if you try to grip power, it'll just slip through your fingers. Simple as that. Okay, so Mars is a radioactive rock because the civilization that was there was advanced. They were too advanced for their own good, and they destroyed themselves. And then they brought that shit to Earth. Okay? Now, if you don't believe in the idea of, there being beings all over the planet, alien beings. I mean, if these skulls don't do it for you, if, all this stuff doesn't do it for you, if this doesn't do it for you, then look at this. This is in India. This is in Mesoamerica. And this is in Siberia. How about that, eh? Remember, beings of consciousness, beings of frequency. How about that, eh? All right. This Mesoamerica, Egypt, Ecuador, Mesopotamia. How about that? Look at these stones that just so happen to look like they were like molded into place, fit strategically into one another, as if they were melted and smelted. Okay, look at this. This is a cave painting. Remember how I told you we were going to get back to the old gray alien cave painting thing? I think this is in Australia. Okay, and this isn't the only thing like this. There's pictures like this all over the globe. Okay, and guess what these beings were? These are beings of star beings that brought knowledge. Everybody, everybody. So we, as a species, have known about these phenomena, known about these beings for millennia. We have just been convinced in modern days and modern times that it's not true, that it's all bullshit. Well, that is the untruth. That is the untruth. That is the bullshit. The interconnection in all reality, the existence of multiple forms of life, the idea that life exists in all things, even rocks, is a fucking reality. Whether or not you like it, it's the truth. And we have created a dystopia on this planet because we believe and have been taught that the earth is dead, that you can own whatever land you land on. But to quote that good old Pocahontas song, what is it? Oh my gosh. You can own the earth until all you'll own is earth. You can own the earth and still all you'll own is earth until you can paint with all the colors of the wind. Now, with all that said, how does all this interrelate to, our governments and military and all that stuff? Because in many cases, these UFOs, UAPs and stuff like that, they've been seen over nuclear sites. They've been seen over military bases. It was seen in Fukushima during the meltdown. Okay, these things have been seen over military bases and all sorts of stuff. Okay, they've disarmed nuclear missiles. Okay. This is huge, you guys. Okay, because this stuff shows that this isn't just some airy-fairy woo-foo stuff. No, this is real. This is so real that it has the United States government, military, and most global governments involved. Okay? This is a very real phenomena that they have to deal with. So much so that it, like I said, it's disarmed nuclear missiles. Okay, and in some cases, unfortunately, some beings also armed certain nuclear missiles. So there's definitely malevolent and more benevolent beings here on this planet that are, fighting for control. Okay, and we as humanity, and our governments are kind of caught in the middle. Okay. So with all that said, how does all this stuff interrelate with like cattle mutilations and stuff like that? Well, interestingly enough, these cattle mutilations, a lot of the time they occur in large part around nuclear testing facilities. Okay, so in many cases, these UFOs, these UAPs and stuff like that, they started popping up when we were testing nuclear devices, when we were working with nuclear radiation and stuff like that. And the reason is, you guys, is because the stuff that we're fucking with literally destroys reality on like a quantum level, like on an atomic level. It literally destroys the very fucking fabric of reality. It disintegrates the fabric of reality. And it literally destroys the human body, and it damages the energy body within the physical vessel. This is huge. We need to get the fuck away from nuclear power, you guys. This isn't a fucking joke, okay? We're talking about the existence of the fucking universe here. And we're just like, flaunting nuclear weapons, detonating them here, destroying them there. Fucking Fukushima just spilling radiation into the damn ocean. Huh? Is that how you feel about your mother Gaia? Okay, so in many cases, these UFOs are seen over nuclear test sites, they're seen over military bases, and in many cases, the cattle mutilations are near areas of high radioactivity, places where there's nuclear test sites and stuff like that. And this is the fucking reason, you guys. This is the reason why these beings are like, whoa, what's going on down there? Who about that? The kids found the matches, eh? Thanks a lot, Prometheus. This here, ladies and gentlemen, is what some people are calling a genetic harvest. They're basically seeing how these nuclear radiations are affecting physical beings, not just cattle, but there's all sorts of mutilations that, not just cattle, there's horses and all sorts of stuff. Okay, most of the time they're near nuclear testing sites. Okay. So, with all that said, now what was the government's response to seeing these UAPs, these UFOs over their top secret military bases? What is their response to having all of their nuclear missiles disarmed? What was their response to having some of their nuclear missiles fucking armed to the point where the people had to self-destruct a nuclear bomb so that they didn't start World War fucking III? What was their response? Well, the response, ladies and gentlemen, was the creation of certain technologies that gave them the exact same type of capabilities that these extraterrestrials had. Essentially, anti-gravity capabilities, the ability to pop in and out of time and space. Okay? Interdimensional travel, the use of vortexes, the use of stargates, the understanding of reality as it actually is, okay? So what we're looking at here is actually the declassification of the U.S. Navy disclosing its secret space program technologies, okay? This is the TR-3B. This is the flying triangle that so many people have seen and swear to God just popped out of existence and or zoomed across the sky at light speeds, okay? This thing flies through funneling electricity through needle points to create a continuously rotating sphere of electricity and electrons, okay? And when this happens and it is put in something like an argon gas, it ends up creating like anti-gravity particles or anti-gravity fields. I'm sorry, actually no, it's particles that resonate with anti-gravity fields. And when you harness enough of these particles together, you get a large anti-gravity field, okay? And these anti-gravity fields enable these ships, these TR-3Bs, these triangles, these flying triangles, to not only be space traveling vehicles, but also underwater travel vehicles. So we're talking about like things that can go out into space and things that can go deep underwater without experiencing like the G's or the pressure of the moving across time and space like in the blink of an eye or going down deep to the bottom of the ocean. Okay? And they're able to power this device, they're able to power this machine through something called a room temperature superconductor, which basically means that they are creating like essentially, I believe it's 1 terawatt of electricity or 1 terawatt of power. Now, just to give a little bit of perspective, the largest nuclear power plant in the world is located, unfortunately, here in Phoenix, Arizona, and it creates 700 gigawatts of electricity, 700 gigawatts of energy, okay? And a terawatt is like 1,000 gigawatts. Okay, I think that's what it is. The whole idea is that a terawatt is superior to a gigawatt in every way. Okay, and we're using large amounts of like a whole massive nuclear power plant to create 700 gigawatts of energy, when all it would take is seriously something about the size, like about this big. Okay, a generator this big, using this this room temperature superconductor to create a terawatt of energy. And if you put this room temperature superconductor creating a terawatt of energy into a TR-3B anti-gravity vehicle, okay, yeah, I think you get it, don't you? Yeah. There's an infinite amount of power and supply that can go into this anti-gravity thing, which basically means that this thing is able to travel the solar system to the other galaxies, other dimensions, other portions of the entire multiverse, portions of the galaxy that we thought were uninhabitable. Okay? Like that. How do they do that? Stargates. Okay, understanding wormholes, understanding the use of anti-gravity, understanding the use of vortexes, understanding the way the laws of physics works, the way that aliens do, the way that the beings of these high frequency, hyperdimensional realms of consciousness understand, okay? And then harnessing that understanding and then using it to propel themselves forward and into the future, okay? Now, getting into this just a little bit, I'm not going to get into full detail, but for those of you that don't know, I'm sorry to tell you, the moon is artificial. It's hollow. It is a ancient fucking spacecraft that was like literally mined out and like carved into what essentially would be like a Death Star type vehicle. Except this vehicle was not, it doesn't create its own electromagnetic portals to travel through. It was like, basically what happened is that it was a moon that was converted into a spacecraft using nanotechnology. And then they used this spacecraft and the natural portals and the natural stargates in the galaxy to get from A to B. Okay, and so it was like, it's like a travel. It was like a planet that was riding the wave of the of the feedback loop to a very specific place in time. Okay? And it just so happened that the Earth was where it landed. And if you don't believe the idea that the moon is artificial, if you don't believe the idea that, you know, that it may actually be some sort of an ancient extraterrestrial spacecraft of some sort, then I suggest you look into the idea that there was actually a time in our history when we didn't have a fucking moon. Okay? Yeah, there was a time in history when we didn't have a moon. All right? So, with that said, what we're talking about is our real history. What we're talking about is a history that's so ancient, that is literally millions of years old. So ancient that it boggles our minds, that it boggles our human mind, because we can't think, most people can't think that far back. But that is what the challenge is in this time of Aquarius, is to use our genes, use our genetics, tap into the feedback loop of light and information to recall our fucking history, our true history, you guys, our real history. And it's in our DNA, man. It's in our DNA. Okay? It's in our DNA. Okay? And now, with that said, the creation of portals is something that isn't just local to, say, sacred sites like the Doorway of the Gods in Peru, okay? Whether or not you know it, and I hope I'm not going to step on any toes, yeah, but our governments and our, mostly actually it's more like our corporations, our private corporations that are, you know, protected by the government, they discovered how this portal type technology works through energy, frequency, and vibration. And they were able to create artificial wormholes, artificial stargates using energy, frequency, and vibration, using their understanding of electromagnetism and the way that reality works to create like doorways, like to other worlds that you could walk through. Okay, so you're in this world here and you just walk through a doorway. Now guess what? You're in this fucking world over here. Oops, hey. All right? And whether or not you know it, this is real, you guys. This is real. But there's a reason why the government doesn't want you to know this shit. Because it'll totally blow your fucking mind. And there's no way half of you will even believe it's true in the first place. You are also consumed in your television programs and your social media to understand and care about the truth about reality. Hear that synchronicity? Is that true? I certainly hope not. I certainly hope not. But for many people, for the majority of humanity, it kind of is. And that's what the Age of Aquarius is about, is the awakening of humanity, the awakening of our collective consciousness, of our 100th monkey consciousness to this reality. So with all that said, what I'm saying here, ladies and gentlemen, is that we are a standing wave. We, in effect, are an extraterrestrial race. Okay? We are a being here on this planet, a physical being that is housing a hyperdimensional consciousness from another world. Okay? And the more conscious of this fact we become, the more we scale up in the harmonics of vibration, and we embody higher and higher octaves of the feedback loop of light and information, to the point where we become a cosmic being of light beyond the physical flesh and form, where we actually become an alien intelligence like we started out in the first place. I'm Yellowstone Wolf, and I certainly hope this video has helped you to understand that. And remember, knowledge always overcomes power. Thank you for your time.